Life sometimes throws you a crooked ball out of nowhere. It seems innocent at first, until it hits you right in the face. As innocent as a little 5-year-old crying from the bottom of his heart. That's what happened to me 4 weeks ago. David, my husband, our 2 children and I were at a barbecue on a bright sunny August Saturday. I was alone in the kitchen, making a pasta salad. Margaret, the hostess, was outside with other wives and husbands. Samuel, our little boy of 5 years old, came running, rushed to me and cried. He was trying to say something, but he couldn't hold back his sobs, and I didn't understand a word. Okay, slow down, honey. Take a deep breath and tell me why you're crying. Summoning all his courage, sniffing, breathing heavily, he followed my advice. I don't want Dad to get rid of his mustache, Mom. I don't want a new cat. I love a mustache, he said. Why do you say that, Sam? We don't want to replace the mustache with a new cat. Why do you think so? Because Dad told Uncle John that, he finally said. I hugged him. You probably didn't understand what Dad was saying. We won't get rid of the mustache. Now, Sam, forget about it and go back outside to play with the other kids, I reassured Sam. Sam looked at me. Are you sure, Mom? Will we keep the mustache? Yes, I'm sure. Clearly relieved, he jumped out. Well, that was weird. Mustache is my old 15-year-old cat. I had it before I met David. My name is Sheila Roberts, formerly O'Brien. I met David 10 years ago. He was 25 years old and I was 23. We got along right away, and everything led to the fact that we got married 2 years later. A year later, I became pregnant and we had our first child, Anika, who is now 7 years old. 2 years later, I gave birth to Samuel. I know that the mustache is coming to an end. He's a little blind now and it's hard for him to keep a litter, but he's still very lively and eats well. David and I discussed this topic several times and even began to prepare the children for the fact that he did not have many years left to live, but we were far from making a decision. Of course, I'll talk to him about it. It wasn't until we left the barbecue and headed home that I remembered what Samuel had said. Darling, why did you say you wanted to get rid of the cat and get a new one? It really traumatized Samuel, I said. For a split second, a strange expression appeared on David's face, surprise, shock. I wasn't sure. He looked at Samuel in the back seat. I didn't say anything like that. Let's talk about it later, when the kids go to bed, he finally replied. Well, when we got home, I had to wake up Samuel, who was very tired and in a bad mood. Bathing time was a real struggle, as it often happens between children and me. David and I were exhausted too, and soon we went to bed, and I forgot about the mustache. And a week ago, it was our turn to take our friends to a barbecue. I was in the kitchen when I really needed to go to the bathroom. The window was open, letting in fresh air, as well as all the noise from the backyard. I could clearly hear John talking to David, even if I couldn't see them from the bathroom. You sneaky bastard, John said. I didn't think you'd have the guts to bring a new girl into the house while your wife was away. Shut up, John. You're going to get me in trouble. If Sheila ever finds out, I'm dead, David replied. So everything is ready for the long Labor Day weekend, when she will take the children to visit Mom and Dad. John, I said shut the fuck up. Okay, you sly dog. I was in a stupor. I tried to sit on the toilet, but the seat was raised, and I duly sat down right in the toilet. I straightened up, lowered the seat, and sat there for a few minutes. My world was collapsing around me. I distinctly remembered what Samuel had overheard a few weeks ago, and suddenly realized the true meaning. I couldn't understand it. I refused to understand. Our life was almost perfect. We both had a job we loved, 2 wonderful children, a nice home, and wonderful friends. At 34, I was very pretty, and our bed life was more than satisfactory. So why did he decide to leave me for a younger woman? Why risk losing everything to try something new? No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find anything in David's behavior that would shed light on his dissatisfaction with me. He does his best to express his love for me, his joy that I am his wife, mother, and friend. And I always return the same love. Could I have misinterpreted what I heard? No, John is a little rough in his vocabulary. My marriage is over. I started crying. There's no way I can keep living with that bastard. But how could I go on? What should I do? Should I go and confront him in front of everyone? That won't do. Judging by what they said, The job will be done over the long weekend. I needed to get proof of his deception. There's nothing easier than that. The colleague's husband works for a security agency and could install cameras in the house to catch him. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then, having proof of his deception, I'll throw him out on the street and squeeze as much out of him as the court allows. The hardest thing will be to live with him for the next week without letting him suspect that something is wrong. I wiped my eyes, put on my ruined makeup again, and went outside to chat with the guests. The next week was terrible. I couldn't be very loving towards David. Every time the two-faced bastard tried to be sweet, loving, and caring, I had to fight myself not to just wipe the smile off his face. Finally, Friday came, and I went with the children to my parents. When Mom saw me, she realized that something was wrong. She insisted that I tell her what happened, guessing that it was something between me and David. An hour later, when the kids were in the basement with my dad, playing Xbox on an old TV, I laid it all out to my mom and my younger sister Natalie. They were as surprised as I was to learn about David's treacherous behavior. No words could ease the pain I was feeling, but it was nice to know that I could rely on them. I could count on help. On Saturday evening, Natalie invited me in for a drink. It was a pub with live entertainment. It would be great to just get drunk and forget that at the same moment my future ex-husband is making love to some girl. Glass after glass of wine did not improve my mood, but the burning pain slowly disappeared. All of Natalie's friends were much younger than me, but they were a pleasant and funny company, although a little wild for my taste. Now they all knew that I had family problems and tried their best to make me feel better. Soon I was constantly on the dance floor. Two young men, Steve and Brad, were especially attentive to my mood, danced with me and said soothing things to me, such as, "What a fool your husband is," or, "If I were him, I would do anything to keep you." I soon realized that they were mostly trying to exploit my suffering, but I didn't care. If my husband could play, then so could I. I know that I am an attractive woman, and the obvious behavior of these two children, not many years separate them from adolescence, confirms this fact. On Sunday, I will deliver the final blow to this lie about marriage, but not without an explosion. Towards the end of the evening, towards the last call, I danced a slow dance with Steve. I pressed my whole body against him and felt his erection pressing down on my stomach. That's what I said. "You're a very beautiful woman, Sheila. I don't know yet what your husband will lose when you leave him, but I can't wait to find out tonight. If you'll let me," Steve whispered in my ear. In the next few seconds, a stream of conflicting feelings and thoughts raced through my head. In the foreground was my natural reserve towards other men since I met David. Two mistakes don't make this right. My mind screamed at me. Feelings eventually defeated intellect. This is the first day of my new life, and there's nothing I'd like more than to use you, I finally said. He reacted quickly. After a few minutes, I grabbed my purse and we left in the direction of Steve's apartment. As soon as the door closed, we started to take off our clothes. When he saw us on the couch, he smiled. He closed the door and stood looking at us. A crazy thought occurred to me, and I immediately began to act. With my finger, I invited Brad to come closer. "Hey, handsome. Well, go to my purse, take my little camera, turn it on, put it in video mode and put it right on the TV so that it catches everything we're going to do tonight. It will be a parting gift to my husband," I explained. With a devilish grin, he did as he was told and returned. I've never been very loud in my lovemaking, but I didn't make love. I spent the next hour on camera directing these two young men who were ready to use me as much and as quickly as possible, and without any restrictions. I went home right after lunch, cooked by my mother on Sunday. I didn't call David to tell him that I would be back a day earlier. I didn't mind surprising him with his girlfriend. When I parked in the garage, I was surprised to find that David's car was not there. Was he out with his new girlfriend? It didn't matter. On Monday, someone from the security agency will provide me with all the records. Mustache was the only one who greeted us. I hope that bastard didn't leave him all weekend. After sending the children downstairs to the playroom, I connected my digital camera to the TV. I was ready to give David a good show. Around 10 p.m., I finally heard his car pull up to the house. The garage door was closed and all the lights were on as he had left them. I stood in the kitchen and waited for him and his girlfriend to come in. I was a little confused when I saw that he was all alone. He was carrying a cardboard box. He was completely surprised to see me. Honey, is something wrong? Are the children sick? You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow afternoon, David asked with a worried expression on his face. Although his anxiety was just beginning, his girlfriend will probably be here soon. I know everything, David. I overheard your conversation with John last week. The cat is already out of the bag, I said, acid and ice mixed in my tone. He looked down, guilt written all over his face. I'm so sorry, dear. I should have been honest with you. I don't know why I kept it a secret. I knew that after all these years spent together, you would feel bad about it, he said in a whisper. But I did all this for the children, so that the shock was not so great. Now he's baffled me. How will making love to another woman help the children cope with our divorce? It didn't make any sense. Before I could answer, the children ran upstairs and rushed at their father so that he almost dropped the box. Suddenly, a faint meow came from the box, which surprised me and the children. David carefully placed the box on the floor and opened the doors. Two small heads appeared, looking at the children. This is for you kids, David said. Two little cats, one for each of you. I suddenly felt sick. My stomach wanted to empty itself right here in the kitchen. David looked at me. I'm sorry, Sheila. The last time I went to the vet, he said the mustache didn't have long to live. Then I decided to get these two kittens to help the children cope with this. He took a couple of beers out of the fridge and turned to me. Let's go to the living room while the children get to know the kittens. I wonder what's on TV?